Here together, Baruch Hashem, to not only commemorate the people who passed away, but also to have a Siyum of Mishnah. Siyum Mishnayot is not a little thing, especially the way the system works. You know, it's not easy to get used to something. The Rambam in Moran Nevuchim asked a very profound question. What's easier to be done? A person who wants to work on himself and he wants to overcome his habit and he wants to go away from a bad habit to a good habit. And Rambam says, let's say a person is chili, say sach, very stiff hand, out the hands are closed. He thinks that otzem yadi, the close, my fist closed, is asali et achayr, is going to make me wealthy. Not true. Torah says ki fatoach tiftach et yadcha la'aniyecha ulevyoncha. Torah says just the opposite: be giving, be open. And the Rambam says a person who wants to break a habit and come used to giving, should he do is give one time $1,000, or is it that he should go and give $1 at a time, 1,000 times? And a lot of people think that, you know, if you give one time $1,000, you break yourself. Say, Allah, I was able to overcome it. The Rambam says no. You have to give 1,000 times $1 is far off better than giving one time $1,000. Yes, true, the impact of giving $1,000 is very big. But yet when you give something 1,000 times, you know what you get used to? You get used to your hand going into your pocket and taking something out. Same thing over here. People say, Rabbi, 5-6 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, they do 2 Mishnayot. One guy says, big deal. And I say to him, big deal, very big deal. Every day, to break a habit and making yourself used to having these little zdarim, short times. First of all, you get to value what you learn. You value a most profound limud out there, which is limud Mishnah. Very, very important to learn Mishnayot. People who know Mishnayot inside out, they know all the concepts. A little bit of everything, they're able to get everything, and they have a broad knowledge of everything. Short, concise, to the point. I remember, brought down in the Sfarim Akdoshim, they say that in Kelm, they used to have a special learning session. After the yeshiva used to have sessions of learning 6 hours, twice a day, of learning 6 hours in the morning hours, and then learning 6 hours in the evening hours. They would make all the students come back for another 5 minutes to learn. And everybody used to ask the altar of Kelm, Rabbi, why are you doing this? You're making them come back. Make them come back for an hour. Why are you making them come back for 5 minutes? And the rabbi says to show you the value of time. How important time is. 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a world. You know the famous story they had with Naftali Trop, when Naftali Trop was very, very ill. And he was already bedridden to the extent where the doctor said because he used to think so much. He says that his the brain swelled. His brain swelled. He needed to rest. And when he was already on his deathbed in Radin, people out of excitement said, you know what? We're going to do a Mishiberach. And everybody is going to give time. Everybody will give time. So one guy says, I give 1 day of my life, Mishiberach. One guy says, I give 1 week of my life, Mishiberach. One guy says, 1 month, Mishiberach. And one guy says, I give 20 years. Everybody says, oh, what do you mean? He says, no, my wife's. So when we're giving so much time, the last person they come to the Chafetz Chaim. And they come to Rabbi Saul Meir HaKohen Milad, they come to him, they say to him, the Kohen Gadol of that generation, say, Rabbi, everybody in the city gave time. Everyone gave time. How much time will you give? And Chavetz Chaim says, I have to think about it. They said, what's there to think? And Chavetz Chaim sat there in concentration, he thought, and he said to everybody shocked, I'm going to give 1 minute. Everybody says, Chayi, what's that? 1 minute you're giving? Everybody else give a day, or 2 or 3, a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months. You're giving only 1 minute. And Chavetz Chaim says, you know how much you can do in 1 minute? You know what 1 minute is? In 1 minute you could accomplish so much. On average, a person could say 200 words. The famous Cheshbon of the Gaon Mevilna. 200 words in 1 minute you could say on average. Understanding what you're saying. And every word is Keneged 630 mitzvot. You could do thousands of mitzvot in 1 minute. You know how valuable 1 minute is? I remember back in the day they asked Rabbi Zalman Meltzer, they asked him a famous question. Rabbi, before the war, during World War I, and after World War I, right before World War II, he said we had such great Talmidei Chachamim. We had people, scholars, people who were learned, people who knew, and you saw fire, Esh of Torah, the fire of Torah coming from them. Why is it? And yet, he says, there were not a lot of books. They used to wait online when Rabbi Akiva Eger is going to be available, because there was one book for the whole yeshiva, and everybody had to wait online when it's going to be available so they could also look in. Why is it that after the war we had printing companies and we have thousands of svarim? There are warehouses full of books, and yet we're not producing. We're not having Talmidei Chachamim. We don't have Torah scholars like it used to be once upon a time. And the rabbi said, I'll tell you what the difference is. He says, before the war, every minute was 60 seconds. People utilize their time, and 1 minute is 60 seconds. It's mind-boggling how much you could accomplish in 1 minute. Recently, one of my kids brought home a comic book. Somebody made a whole illustration of the famous mashal that one time they spoke about. Let's say there's going to be a phenomenon. It's going to be a big miracle. And there's going to come out a bat call, a heavenly voice, that's going to say the following. Listen to the bat call. The bat call comes out, the heavenly voice comes out, says, and this day, all the dead people are going to get up for exactly 1 hour. He says the biggest shock is going to be is that all the living people are going to run to the cemetery. But all the people from the cemetery are going to run to the Bet Midrash. Say, Mama, leave me alone. Why are you bothering me? I have 1 hour to do something. And now I tell you a true story that I heard from somebody who knows the story of firsthand how it took place. I was once praying Netz Minyan woke up early. Daven Netz Minyan, summertime. It was not winter. It was winter time, not summertime. I cannot get up so early. It's you have to have the mindset for it. It's very difficult. Kol hakavod to all those people who get up here. And I went to the shul, and there was a Yid, a Jew that came from Eretz Israel, from Yerushalayim. And he says to me, there was a famous story that happened. There was a person who was making a wedding. And when he was making a wedding, he very much wanted one thing more than everything. The wedding should take place, yeah, obvious. But he wanted his father, who had Alzheimer's, but already in the later stages, who was, lo alenu, like a vegetable, not able to use his intellect whatsoever. And he wanted his father to attend the wedding. He said he did his homework, ran around. He found a doctor, a professor. A professor says, I have a solution for you. I have this pill. He says, if you give it to your father, he says, with this amount of hours, don't tell anyone where you got it. It was never tested, but I know for sure this is going to work. He says, this pill, X amount of hours, you give it to him before the wedding, right before the wedding, it's going to be all back to normal. But a few hours after the wedding, he's going to go back to the way he was. And the biggest shock was he gave it to his father. When his father woke up, he came to himself. He says, Abba. He says to him, yeah. He says, Ani oseh chatuna, I'm making a wedding. This and this, in a few hours you have to be in this wedding hall. His father says to him, yeah, no problem. Comes the wedding time. He's looking all over to find his father, he can't find him anywhere. Looking all over, he can't find him. At the end, they told him that, no, we saw your father ran towards the Bet Midrash. He ran to the Bet Midrash before the chuppah was about to take place. He comes, he sees his father sitting over a Gemara, and he says to his father, Abba, Mata Oseh, what are you doing? I brought you, I did so much just to get you, for you to attend the Chatunah of your grandchildren. What are you doing? His father says to him, please, I want to be left alone. He says, I'm in the middle of a big sugya. And he says, and I want to go over the sugya and I want to complete writing. Why? Because when he was hit with Alzheimer's, he was right in the middle of a pshato. He was right in the middle of writing a whole explanation to the Gemara. And he put his pen down right in the middle. And they said that he was able to learn up the sugya at that time of the wedding as long as he was awake. And he was able to complete writing. That Bar Torah. A person who said the story is true because he was a neighbor living a couple of doors away from where the story took place. Value of time, Rabotai. Time. The paradox will be that living people are going to run to the cemetery to see their grandparents, ancestors. But the ancestors are going to run right by them, say, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I have 1 hour to learn Torah. It's worthwhile to go to this comic book, very interesting one. You see how everybody was shaking. 1 more minute left, and everybody's getting more nervous. What's going to be in 1 minute? This is value of time, Rabotai. I want to say again, Mazal Tov and Siman Tov to all those people who are Mesayimim. It's not an easy thing. Baruch Hashem, it's a habit. And you have to build that habit of saying, you know what, consistency. 2 Mishnayot a day. It's a big thing, it starts with 2 minutes. A lot of times, I got to open a sefer and I come to look inside and I say, you know what, 2 minutes. Somehow 2 hours, 3 hours pass by and I cannot put the book down, can't put the sefer down. Because it's just one long continuation and you cannot stop in the middle. I want to give bracha to everybody, not we should be machzikim b'Torah, not only be machzik Torah, not only to grasp onto the books, but adukim b'Torah. To be attached. So attached that you should be inseparable from Torah Bezrat Hashem. Amen. May we all be zocheh Bezrat Hashem to the Geula Shlema. We should be true be Menachem Av. And should Bezrat Hashem come be zocheh to true Nechama Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you. We have a wonderful rabbi came to pay his respect to us, to davens with my brother, and his minyan, my brother davens with you, I should say. And we asked him to come to say a few words.